Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. 30 feet up a ladder, ex-Marine Thomas Grayson was patching his cabin roof, enjoying the silence, until a fake HOA patrol rolled in, demanding eviction with forged documents and smug arrogance. What they didn't know? They'd just declared war on the wrong man, and he never backs down. There was something oddly peaceful about being 30 feet up on a ladder, hammer in one hand, and a mountain breeze hitting your face like ice water. I'd been patching the western slope of the roof all morning, nothing fancy, just reinforcing the old shingles before the fall rains came rolling in. My cabin wasn't pretty by suburban standards, but to me, it was perfect. Hand-built in the 60s, creaky, solid, and surrounded on all sides by trees that had outlived 3 presidents. No cell towers, no honking traffic, and most importantly, no damn HOA. Just me, my land, and enough solitude to finally breathe. That quiet, of course, couldn't last. I first heard the tires, too smooth, too confident for the dirt road they were chewing up. Then the faint hum of a V8 engine approaching from the ridge. I climbed down, set the hammer aside, and wiped sweat off my forehead with the back of my forearm. I expected maybe a lost camper, maybe some idiot teenager trying to find a cell signal. But what pulled up into my clearing was a white pickup truck with Evergreen Peaks HOA stenciled across the side in green block letters. Just behind it, stuck on the door in vinyl, was a badge-looking emblem that said Community Enforcement, Patrol Division. 3 guys stepped out, matching khaki uniforms. Badges that weren't real law enforcement, but were just close enough to fool a Walmart greeter. One had sunglasses on, even though the sun was still crawling above the tree line. The tallest one held a clipboard like it was a goddamn sword. They looked like mall cops trying out for a military movie. "Are you Mr. Grayson?" the clipboard guy asked, stepping forward with the smugness of someone who's never been punched in the nose. "I am," I said, arms crossed, voice steady. "Who the hell are you?" "Sir, we are officers with the Evergreen Peaks Homeowners Association Patrol Division," he said, like I should care. "We're here to serve you this notice of immediate eviction due to non-compliance with environmental and structural ordinances in the Cascadia Valley Zoning Compact." He handed me a piece of paper. It looked official, nice letterhead, seal, paragraphs in legalese font. I took it, scanned it. It was bullshit. Absolutely gloriously steaming bullshit. "This cabin is located on private land," I said, calm but firm. "I own it outright. This isn't part of your HOA. The Evergreen Peaks HOA recently extended jurisdictional boundaries to include all properties along the northern ridge," clipboard guy shot back. "As of June 1st, your structure falls within our authority." I raised an eyebrow. "You extended your jurisdiction," I repeated. "What is this? The Roman Empire?" He didn't laugh. None of them did. Sunglasses guy added, "You have 2 hours to vacate the premises. At that point, enforcement will begin disassembly and environmental remediation. You may remove any personal belongings before we begin." I had to laugh at that one. "You planning on tearing my cabin down with what? A bad Yelp review?" "You've been notified," clipboard guy said, turning sharply on his heel. "Failure to comply will result in additional penalties under the Unified Property Management Statutes, Section 9, Subsection 3. "There is no such statute," I said. "Sir," he said, pausing in his turn just long enough to smirk, "we suggest you make the wise decision." They piled into the truck and reversed down the dirt road like they'd just delivered divine judgment. I stood there in the dust, paper still in hand, and felt a familiar tightening behind my eyes, the one that usually came before bar fights and incoming mortar rounds. It wasn't just that they'd tried to bluff me off my own land. It was the confidence, the pretense, the nerve to dress it up like law. I walked inside, dug out the deed to the property, checked the GPS coordinates, and compared them with the county parcel map I kept laminated under the drawer. Still mine. Still outside of any HOA. And then I called the sheriff. The dispatcher on the line sounded distracted, like she was typing something else while we talked. "Yeah, we've actually already had a call about that location," she said. "Caller said an unknown armed male was squatting in an abandoned cabin and had threatened hikers. We've got a note logged for a wellness check sometime later today." My blood ran cold. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "this is Thomas Grayson. United States Marine Corps, retired. I own this land. That cabin is not abandoned, and I haven't seen a single damn hiker all week." She hesitated. "Okay, well, I'm just telling you what's in the system." We can send someone out to verify the situation, but it might take a few hours." I hung up before she finished the sentence. They were setting me up. I knew the play. I'd seen it before, in dusty towns overseas with corrupt landlords and fake papers. You get someone to log a false report, tie up official channels, create a narrative, then you move in before anyone has time to check the facts. Except this time, they picked the wrong guy. I didn't sit. I didn't pace. I moved. A lifetime of training kicked in and kept the adrenaline from clouding my head. I checked the perimeter first. Footprints in the gravel, tire tracks from the pickup, a faint trail of mud where one of them must have stepped off the road to inspect the generator box behind the shed. The bastards had been casing the place before they even announced themselves. That wasn't protocol for some HOA courtesy call. That was a recon run. Back inside, I shut the cabin door, bolted it top and bottom, and made the first of several moves. I had cameras, solar-powered and motion-triggered, installed in hidden nooks around the cabin and up on the slope leading toward the road. Not because I expected trouble, this wasn't Fallujah, but because habit dies hard and I sleep better knowing I've got eyes in the trees. I pulled out my laptop and opened the feeds. Nothing on the cameras yet. The white truck was gone, but I doubted they were finished. They gave me 2 hours. I figured they'd be back on the dot, so I prepped. I packed a duffel with essentials. Hard drive, original deed, certified county plat map, insurance docs, USB with camera backups. I strapped my sidearm to my belt, Glock 19 legally registered, safety on, and slipped the Mossberg behind the front door. I had no plans to use either unless the situation turned, but I wasn't about to let fake security thugs swing saws at my house while I waved a copy of the Constitution. With the clock ticking, I called an old number. No voicemail, just a beep. "Echo burned," I said. "Northern Ridge. HOA Opry, false documents, law not responding, might escalate." That was all I needed to say. If they were in the state, hell, even the tri-state area, Mark and Jose would move. That was the rule. No questions. Just action. We hadn't used that code in years, not since Kabul, but the code was still good. I had about 45 minutes left when I heard the second truck. This time there were 2 vehicles, another white pickup, same logo, same phony military stance, and a dark gray trailer with mesh sides and tools clattering in the back. The second truck was bigger, had a generator mounted on a welded rack, and 2 spotlights bolted to the front bar. A gas-powered saw stuck out of the back like a shark fin. 8 of them, all in the same tan uniforms. Some had gloves and utility belts. One guy wore a face shield like he expected sparks. Another had bolt cutters. And one held a heavy-duty gas torch in both hands like he meant business. I stepped onto the porch, arms down, voice even. "This is private land," I said. "You're trespassing." Clipboard guy was back, standing next to a heavier man with an earpiece and sunglasses, probably their security lead. "You were notified," the heavy one said, stepping forward. "This structure is not in compliance with updated valley zoning under the Evergreen Charter. We are authorized to initiate environmental remediation under subsection 11. You're full of shit," I said plainly. There is no Evergreen Charter that applies to private freehold property outside HOA jurisdiction. I've got the county deed. You touch one screw on this place, and it's felony trespass. They didn't care. One of them peeled off toward the utility pole that fed my property's solar inverter. Another unlatched the small gate by the tool shed and started removing the hinges. I saw 2 men start hauling the gas generator out of the trailer. "You're making a mistake," I called out. "I've got everything recorded." Multiple angles. Don't push this sunglasses man gave a twisted little smile. "This area is under community management now. We've filed pre-authorization. This building is listed as an abandoned hazard. Pre-authorization from who?" I asked. "From the community leadership," he said. "Our board, our president, and I suppose Judge Judy signed the warrant." He motioned to someone. A man with a clipboard came toward me with another set of documents. I didn't take them. Instead, I reached down, opened the cabin door just wide enough to slip inside, and picked up the landline. The sheriff's department didn't answer on the first ring. Or the second. I tried the backup number, emergency dispatch office for the rural region. After 2 more rings, someone picked up. "This is Deputy Marquez," came the voice, clipped and tired. "This is Thomas Grayson on Hollow Ridge Spur," I said. "HOA members are on my property. Multiple individuals, equipment, tools, attempting forced entry and destruction of property. This is an active trespass situation." There was a pause. Then, We've already received a report concerning that location. Alleged illegal occupancy. Suspected threats. There's a note here to send a wellness check later today. No, this is not a wellness check. This is an armed group dismantling parts of my home. They are not police. They are not code enforcement. They are acting under forged authority. Another pause. Keys clicking in the background. Sir, the matter is logged. I'll escalate it to the on-duty supervisor. We'll get someone out there when possible. When possible. I could hear her discomfort. There's a backlog of priority calls at the moment. I hung up. Out the window, one of the patrol guys started unspooling a heavy orange extension cord toward the structure. Another had climbed partway up the cabin's front porch and was starting to inspect the foundation beams with a measuring stick. I stepped outside again. You've got 30 seconds, I said loud and clear, to leave this land before you cross into criminal liability. Everything is being recorded. Drones, GoPros, satellite if I have to. They just looked at me like I was the crazy one. I walked backward into the house, locked the door, and pulled the curtain. And waited. They didn't leave, but I knew something they didn't. I wasn't alone anymore. They came in like they owned the place. They walked around my property like it was an abandoned construction site, kicking the dirt with steel-toe boots, tapping on walls, muttering into radios like they were scanning for weak points. One of them actually brought out a damn clipboard with a checklist and started ticking things off. Structural instability, I heard. Roofline sag, another mumbled. A third, some smug-looking guy with a beard too clean for a work crew, photographed my shed like it had anthrax inside. If I didn't know better, I'd think they were rehearsing for a documentary on how not to piss off a combat vet. I stayed inside, curtains drawn but not idle. I watched them through the camera feeds, switching angles, zooming in on their faces. I cataloged every badge number on their shirts, fake ones made to look real enough for civilians to flinch, but no state or federal seal. Private security at best, weekend militia cosplay at worst. They didn't realize I had their faces, their voices, even their conversations. One of the mics near the back steps picked up a gem. Think he's armed? Probably. But Karen said we're clear. He's just some squatter vet playing pioneer. That squatter vet had served 16 years, taught MOUT tactics to 3 generations of Marines, and had friends that could clear a village faster than these clowns could. Assemble a wheelbarrow. At minute 37 past the hour, my camera at the ridge picked up movement. They'd come. Muffled engine hum. Low to the ground, creeping through the gravel like a panther stalking cattle. A black Jeep Wrangler, lifted matte finish, spare tire covered with a weather-beaten American flag. The back was rigged with satellite uplinks and a folded drone nest was strapped to the roof. It pulled up quietly behind the tree line, parking out of sight of the HOA goon squad. Then came the doors. Mark stepped out first. Same Mark who used to hotwire Taliban comm trucks while eating peanut butter MRES. Big, broad, and already smiling, that death grin he got whenever someone challenged a boundary. Jose was right behind him, leaner, faster, eyes like a hawk. They wore nothing tactical, just hiking gear, utility belts, and quiet confidence. Mark carried a hard case. Jose, the drone pack. They didn't run. They walked. I opened the front door before they reached it, and we exchanged no words. Just a nod from Mark, a clasp on the shoulder from Jose. We'd spoken louder with less in worse places. Mark flicked open the case and powered up the GoPro rig. Chest mount angled perfectly. Jose tossed the drone into the air like it was a toy. It spun up, caught balance, and zipped upward into a stable hover, feeding live footage to my laptop inside. Then we walked out, me in the middle, Mark to my right, Jose flanking left with the remote, Sun behind us. 8 uniformed HOA enforcers in front, clearly caught off guard by the sudden arrival of a team that looked and moved nothing like civilian hikers. They froze. One guy near the generator dropped his clipboard. Another, halfway through loosening a fence panel, took 2 steps back like he just realized he wasn't insured for this. I stopped a few feet short of them, gave it a breath, then spoke loud and clear. "You are on private land," I said. "This is your final warning. I am the registered property owner of this parcel as recognized by Lewis County, State of Washington. Your presence here constitutes trespassing. Your tools and actions constitute attempted destruction of private property. We are documenting everything, and you will be held legally and civilly liable. One of them started to raise his voice. Mark cut him off, stepping forward with the GPORO pointed directly at his face. "Keep talking," he said. "You're gonna look great in court." Jose panned the drone toward the second truck. "Got plates," he said. "Got faces. Got gear. Got audio." All streaming clipboard guy, again, stepped forward like he hadn't just lost all moral and tactical ground. "This area falls under HOA jurisdiction per regional compact zoning. You're interfering with code enforcement and will be reported." I didn't even blink. "Show me the deed that puts my land under your authority." He pulled out a folded map. Mark reached for it before he could open it. "Nope," he said. "I already know that trick. That's a manipulated copy of the 1981 buffer overlay. You're 3 years and 1 land transfer too late." The heavy-set guy with the torch tried to move casually toward the truck. Jose turned the drone and lowered it to shoulder height, hovering like a hornet. The guy froze. Then someone behind them cracked under pressure. "They're recording us, man. And that one's got a gun," one of the younger enforcers shouted, pointing at my holstered Glock. "And this is America," I said. "Congratulations on discovering the Second Amendment," another voice behind him muttered. "They're military. Karen didn't say they were military." A frantic voice came over one of the radios, shrieking loud enough for all of us to hear. "Fall back! Fall back now! Do not engage! Abort the operation immediately!" It was Karen. She must have been watching from somewhere, or someone had called her. The panic in her voice was unmistakable. One of the men looked at the others, uncertain. Another started backing up. The one with the saw grabbed it and walked briskly to the truck without another word. Mark grinned. "Oh no, don't leave yet," he said cheerfully. "You forgot your copy of the lawsuit." They didn't even acknowledge him. Within a minute, they were all retreating, packing up, shoving equipment into the trailer like kids cleaning up after breaking something expensive. Engines started. Mud kicked. By the time they rolled back down the trail, only the drone remained above, watching them vanish. I looked at Jose. He nodded. "It's all backed up." Time stamped. Geolocated Mark reached into his vest and handed me a flash drive. "And we got sound on Karen. Real-time panic. Radio frequency capture. You're welcome." I finally exhaled. I wasn't alone anymore. The calm that followed their retreat was deceptive. The kind that wraps itself around your shoulders like a warm blanket, but hides the smell of smoke underneath. We weren't even inside yet when Jose said it. Just a short nod toward the field where the trailer had been parked. They left something. We found it half buried under the edge of a flattened bush. A heavy-duty field folder with plastic tabs, water-resistant, probably fell out in the chaos. Mark popped it open right there on the porch steps. Inside were laminated documents, a map, and what looked like a briefing packet. He flipped through it slowly, jaw tightening. "Well, well," he muttered. "What do we have here?" I pulled on gloves and took the packet into the cabin, laying everything out on the dining table like a crime scene. We went page by page. Some were printed in full color, HOA headers at the top, but no government stamps. No court markings. No official filings. The map was the first red flag. A land zoning diagram dated July 1981 clearly showing the northern ridge, including my property as a designated hunting buffer zone. But the problem was, I already had the 1984 parcel transfer notarized, filed, and certified by the county, removing this land from any development plans and placing it under full private ownership. This old map was a historical artifact, completely invalid, but Karen had used it like gospel. Then came the kicker. Stapled to the back was a printed vote log titled Emergency HOA Meeting, Parcel 14Z, Occupant Removal Authorization. The names were signatures of the Evergreen Peaks HOA Board, Karen at the top, 8 others below. Underneath was a paragraph authorizing preliminary enforcement protocol for removal of unauthorized occupant based on community security concerns. They had voted to remove me like I was a dumpster behind a Whole Foods. I knew this was organized, I muttered, but this is deliberate, coordinated, and Criminal Mark whistled low. "You see this? They even drafted internal talking points. Public safety concerns, unverified property claims, environmental degradation." Jesus, they had a whole PR campaign ready. Jose tapped the last document. "Here, look at the footer." There it was. Oakvale Private Security Solutions, a contracting firm based 2 counties south. Not licensed for enforcement, not registered for armed private security in Washington state. They weren't even legal, I said. This is vigilante crap dressed up as bureaucracy. We scanned everything, photographed each page with date stamps. Then I made calls. First to my attorney, Rhonda Miller, former federal prosecutor, now running a property law firm out of Tacoma. She picked up on the second ring. Hey Rhonda, it's Grayson. I've got a situation. HOA tried to force me out of my own property using fake documents, fake officers, and a hired team of private contractors pretending to be enforcement. I've got footage, documents, maps. Want the job? She didn't hesitate. Send everything. If even half of what you're saying is true, we've got them dead to rights. While Mark was uploading the GoPro footage to an encrypted drive, I made my next move. I wrote a formal complaint to the Lewis County Prosecutor's Office, attaching copies of the seized documents, drone photos of the operation, vehicle tags, and timestamps from every angle. I sent a second complaint to the State Department of Licensing, reporting Oakville Security for unlicensed armed operation and impersonation of law enforcement. And then I did the thing Karen probably feared most. I contacted the media. Specifically Northwest Field Line News, the investigative outfit that covered real estate corruption and environmental land grabs. I'd followed their work for years, and this smelled like their kind of storm. I emailed them everything. Within an hour, I had a call back from a reporter named Tasha. She didn't waste time. "This is gold," she said. "Land rights, veteran targeted by HOA, fabricated documents. Do you mind going on the record?" "I insist on it," I said. As the day turned to dusk, I sat with Mark and Jose around a fire pit behind the cabin. We grilled sausages on skewers and shared a silence that only old soldiers know, where the quiet doesn't need filling, just holding. Then the first email hit my inbox. From Tasha. Subject line, headline draft, HOA targets veteran for land grab caught on camera. She attached a preview thumbnail. A freeze frame of clipboard guy mid-threat. Mark's GoPro pointed straight at his face. The caption underneath, Marine vet refuses to back down. HOA's false takeover caught in the act. I read it once, then twice, and I smiled. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid. That had left me a long time ago, but because I knew the kind of people I was dealing with now. HOA bureaucrats with a god complex were one thing. HOA bureaucrats with a plan, money, and no accountability? That was war, and war required preparation. At first light, I took the quad and rode the perimeter of my 40 acres, checking the fencing, the cameras, and the trail sensors I'd installed years ago. Nothing had been breached again, but I noticed fresh tire marks near the southern ridge, a section far from the cabin, just a rocky incline where few dared to drive. Someone had tried a back approach. Sloppy. Probably last night. Back at the cabin, Jose was already awake, boiling coffee over the camp stove. Mark was on the porch, drone remote in hand, running another sweep over the forest edge. "They're watching," he muttered, eyes on the screen. Karen's house has lights on. A few SUVs parked up near that new modular line, movement near the trailhead too. "We're not alone," I sent another text to Rhonda, just an update, and she replied with a photo of a filed temporary restraining order request against Evergreen Peaks HOA. She'd already submitted it to the Lewis County Superior Court, citing trespass, harassment, impersonation of law enforcement, and unlawful threat of eviction. Fast, efficient. I knew I hired the right person. By mid-morning, a sheriff's vehicle showed up. One deputy, young, nervous. His name tag read B. Curtis. He stepped out slow, hand resting near his holster, but not aggressive. "I'm responding to some complaints from the HOA," he said. "They claimed there was a confrontation up here. Said you had armed individuals." I handed him the flash drive. "This is from my cameras. Includes drone footage, audio recordings, timestamps. You'll see your so-called HOA conducted a fake eviction with illegal documents and unlicensed private security. I've already filed with the county prosecutor." He blinked, took the drive. "Okay, I'll log this and forward it to my supervisor." Mark stepped up beside me. "Deputy, if we didn't have cameras, they'd have bulldozed this place." Curtis looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "Look, I'm not taking sides, but off the record. They've made a lot of calls, not just about you. That woman, Karen, she's been filing reports on hikers, campers, even a forest ranger. Claims she's community security director, but the sheriff's office never signed off on any jurisdiction. Bingo. She's self-deputizing," I said, "using fake authority to manipulate enforcement. That's impersonation. "I'll make sure this gets seen," he said, stepping back toward his vehicle. "But be careful, all right? There's a lot of politics wrapped up in that HOA. Money, lawyers, land disputes." He left in a cloud of dust, and I knew what he wasn't saying. They were scared of her, or of whatever funding she was connected to. Later that afternoon, Rhonda called. "I've been digging into Evergreen Peak's filings," she said. And guess what? That HOA was incorporated only 18 months ago, and the boundary they submitted to the county excludes your land. Officially. There's even a disclaimer in their original petition that says excludes parcels transferred to private ownership prior to 1985. You're clean. So Karen's map is completely worthless. Worse, it's fraud if she knowingly used an outdated zoning map to authorize enforcement. That was our next move. Rhonda would file an injunction backed by the land records and video evidence, but she also wanted something else. Testimony, not just mine, but from anyone who'd been harassed or threatened by the HOA. We needed a pattern. I rode into town that evening, stopping by the hardware store and the bait shop. Both places were frequented by locals, and more than a few had stories. One old guy, Hank, leaned over the counter and said, "Karen." "Yeah, she came knocking last fall. Said my smokehouse violated her environmental setback rules. Told her I've been smoking trout there since Reagan was president. A younger woman, Casey, the ranger deputy, heard us talking and chimed in. She reported me for trespassing in a federal zone. I was on duty. We had to file a clarification notice through Fish and Wildlife to shut her up. I took notes, got their contact info, and promised them Rhonda would reach out." That night, a new video dropped online. Northwest Field Line News had published their piece. "Veteran fights off HOA raid. Caught on drone, legal fallout begins." My inbox exploded. Support, outrage, other veterans, former HOA victims, reporters, lawyers. Even a congressman's aide asked for a call, but one message stood out. A private email, no name, just an attachment, and a single line. "You should know who's funding her." I opened the file. It was a scanned donation record, a political contribution routed through 3 LLCs into the HOA's legal fund. The name behind the LLC, Devlin Ridge Developments, a known land acquisition firm. This wasn't just Karen on a power trip. This was a land grab in progress. The moment I saw the name Devlin Ridge Developments, my stomach twisted with a familiar burn, the kind that always came before combat. I hadn't heard that name since Kandahar, but I remembered the whispers. Devlin was no mom-and-pop developer. They were known for one thing: hostile land consolidation. They didn't buy land, they absorbed it, swallowed it whole through shell LLCs, fraudulent claims, and legal chokeholds. And now they were using Karen as their attack dog. Back at the cabin, I sat Mark and Jose down and showed them the file. Mark let out a low whistle. "So that's why they're pushing so hard. This isn't about an HOA. It's about land banking. They want your 40 acres to complete some acquisition map Jose was already pacing. You said she had modular homes built nearby? Probably Devlin funded. Get enough land control, then rezone the area, build upscale communities, flip it for profit." "Exactly," I said. "And I'm a holdout in their blueprint." We spent the next day assembling our own case. Not just a defense, a counterattack. Rhonda was already building the injunction package, but now we added a new element: conspiracy to defraud via coordinated land misrepresentation. That meant connecting Karen's HOA activities to Devlin Ridge through documented transfers, campaign donations, and development proposals. It wasn't hard. Rhonda found 2 community enrichment grants issued to Evergreen Peaks from an umbrella nonprofit owned by Devlin. One of the grants even had a provision: use of funds for expansion of regulatory oversight and security enforcement. That was their fake HOA patrol. I installed a new solar-powered camera post at the far south fence line, the area they'd approached from earlier. That night, around 2 a.m., it paid off. The footage showed 2 men, dressed in dark hoodies, one carrying bolt cutters, trying to slice through the gate. When they saw the blinking infrared light, they bolted. I downloaded the footage and sent it to Rhonda and Deputy Curtis. This time, Curtis responded fast. Within 2 hours, he and another deputy were at my gate, requesting a copy and surveying the area. "You're being targeted," he said, watching the screen. "This isn't random trespass. This is coordinated. Think you can ID them? We'll run plates on the truck parked down the trail. They must have been dropped off. You got lucky with that camera. Lucky wasn't the word I'd use. Prepared, maybe. Paranoid, absolutely. Meanwhile, news of the attempted HOA eviction was spreading like wildfire. I did a short video interview with Field Line News. Nothing dramatic, just the facts. But the image of 3 armed veterans standing their ground against a fraudulent HOA struck a nerve with the public, especially in rural America. A petition began circulating. Investigate Evergreen Peaks HOA and its corporate backers. Within 48 hours, it had over 75,000 signatures. State-level reporters started snooping, and I got a call from someone claiming to be from the Washington State Attorney General's office asking for a meeting. Then came the retaliation. On the 3rd morning, we woke to find the creek that flowed near my cabin, my only fresh water source, blocked. Someone had dumped sacks of concrete into the narrow upstream bend, redirecting the flow away from my property. The move was subtle but precise. Jose lost it. That's eco-sabotage. They're weaponizing water. Mark tested the bank with a probe. And that was fresh. Last night, maybe early morning, deliberate, we filmed everything, documented the coordinates. Rhonda had a hydrologist on standby who agreed to do a quick remote analysis using our drone footage. Her report came in fast. Artificial obstruction of waterway with intent to disrupt residential supply. Criminal environmental interference. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was full-scale siege tactics. That afternoon, Mark intercepted drone footage of HOA trucks gathering in a nearby cul-de-sac. One was a rental box truck. Logo scraped off, no plates visible. Inside, stacks of what looked like fencing materials, bright orange tarps, plastic barriers, and rollaway signs. He zoomed in on one. Construction zone, property condemned, stay out by order of Evergreen Peaks HOA. They were planning to fake a county condemnation. That was it. I called Rhonda. We go public. Full blast. She didn't hesitate. I've already drafted the legal memorandum, and I've secured airtime. You're speaking live on Northwest Public Access tonight. I didn't want fame, but I damn well wanted truth. At 7 p.m., I stood in front of my cabin, wearing my old USMC field jacket, American flag flying above the porch, and stared down the camera lens. My name is Thomas Grayson. I'm a private landowner in Lewis County, Washington. This is my home. And this is what a fraudulent HOA backed by a corporate land developer looks like when they try to illegally take it from a veteran using fake documents, fake authority, and armed intimidation. I'm not moving. And I'm not alone. We signed off. An hour later, the video had over 200,000 views. The inbox exploded again, but one message made my blood run cold. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eviction goes forward. Final warning, unsigned. I barely slept. That message, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eviction goes forward, kept looping in my head. It wasn't an idle threat. This was a cornered animal making its final move. I spent the morning reinforcing the front of the cabin with sandbags and crossbars. Jose repositioned 2 trail cams. Mark parked the Jeep at the edge of the drive with the drone prepped and hovering above. By noon, I got confirmation. A convoy had been spotted forming near the entrance to the HOA development. 3 pickups, 2 unmarked box trucks, and a cluster of men in matching uniforms patrol HOA. Except this time, they carried actual riot shields and gas masks. Karen was done pretending to be civilized. At 2:45, I got eyes on them from the drone. They were approaching, slow and theatrical. The lead truck stopped at the gate, and one man got out with a sledgehammer. He smashed the private property sign off its post like it was some Hollywood prop. I didn't move. I waited. At 3 p.m., sharp, they reached the edge of the clearing. A megaphone clicked on. This is Evergreen Peaks HOA enforcement. This structure is condemned and will now be vacated and secured. Jose stepped beside me with a body cam already running. They're really doing it. I raised the bullhorn. This is private property. You are trespassing under Washington State Code 9A52. You have 30 seconds to leave. They didn't. Instead, the men began fanning out in a semicircle, one heading toward the power relay, another lifting a crowbar. I raised the warning flare and fired it straight up. That's when everything changed. Mark activated the drone speaker. From above, a booming voice blasted, "All actions are being recorded and streamed live. Leave now or face criminal charges." They froze. Then from behind them, a convoy of actual sheriff's vehicles roared down the road. Curtis had brought backup. 5 deputies, sirens blazing, emerged with rifles slung and orders in hand. Drop the tools, hands in the air. Karen's plan unraveled in seconds. One man tried to run and was tackled. Another dropped his shield and wept. Karen herself arrived late. White SUV, mouth agape, shouting that she had authorization. But Curtis shut her down with 3 words. "Not anymore, Karen." They stood frozen in the clearing, like kids caught with fireworks in a no-burn zone. Sheriff Curtis didn't waste time. He motioned to his deputies, who quickly began zip-tying the worst of the group, the ones holding crowbars, bolt cutters, or in one case, a full tactical baton. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same people who screamed law and order now screamed about overreach and sovereign rights. The moment actual law enforcement got involved, Karen was still arguing, spitting words at anyone who would listen. She shoved a stack of papers at Curtis, printouts from the same doctored site plan we'd seen before. He took one glance and handed it to a deputy. "Evidence of fraud," he said flatly. "Take it with the rest." Her face twisted in a way I hadn't seen before, rage mixed with disbelief, like someone whose imaginary empire just crumbled beneath them. Within an hour, every HOA patrol member was processed on site. The private security company? Unlicensed. Their weapons? Non-permitted. Their uniforms? Imitating law enforcement. The sheriff's office already had a search warrant for the HOA clubhouse and administrative building. Apparently, Karen had filed dozens of false reports over the past year about vagrants, gun threats, abandoned structures, and my name was at the top of most of them. That night, I sent the footage, drone, GoPro, body cams, and even a sheriff's deputy's chest cam to my lawyer and the local news. The story broke wide the next morning. HOA president attempts armed eviction of Marine veteran. It caught like wildfire. National news picked it up. A GoFundMe. I never asked for hit 6 figures in 2 days. Karen was indicted within the week. 3 counts, filing false police reports, conspiracy to trespass, and forgery. 2 of her lieutenants flipped, and the emails they turned over? A gold mine of premeditated harassment. They had spreadsheets, timetables, even a cleanup protocol for how to sanitize the property after reclaiming it. In court, the judge didn't mince words. This was not community management. This was a hostile takeover of private land. Evergreen Peaks HOA was dissolved by court order, their assets frozen. My lawyer smiled when he told me I'd be receiving $370,000 in damages and settlements. But money wasn't the win. The win was quiet. I rebuilt the fence with steel posts, installed motion cameras on every trailhead, put up a sign that reads, "Private, former military, no HOA jurisdiction," and just for good measure, hung a flag on the front of the cabin stitched by Jose's wife that reads, "Don't threaten a Marine with eviction." Now, when I wake up in the morning, all I hear is wind in the trees. No trucks, no clipboards, no damn megaphones. Just peace. The kind you earn and the kind you protect.